Welcome to another episode of Strictly Business Unscripted. I'm your host, Keandra Jones. This podcast educates, ignites inspiration, fosters encouragement, and paves the way for growth among small businesses and the overall Oak Cliff community. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Dallas Zoo, Home Care Network, Breakfast Brothers, and Surf Pro. Thank you for your support. Now, let's get into today's show. Today on Strictly Business Unscripted, we are joined by my friend Tony Moore. He has over 30 years in themed attractions and hospitality. Tony Moore has led some of the world's most recognized entertainment brands, including SeaWorld, Aquatica, Discovery Cove, Universal Studios, ZooTampa, and Gathering Place in Tulsa. Known for his visionary leadership and passion for creating meaningful guest experiences, Tony is president and CEO at Trinity Park Conservancy and now oversees the $325 million Harold Simmons Park, which is a transformative project redefining how Dallas connects with nature, community, and culture. Please help me welcome Mr. Tony Moore.
Well, thank you so much. What an honor. I'm not sure you read all that. You sure that is me?
Listen, I was just saying how after I was reading through this, I was like, my God, my friend is so amazing. This is the same person I'm like chilling out with and, having a drink with every now and then. You are an impressive person, Tony, but I guess you know that.
Well, I've been fortunate just to work with some cool people and some cool projects, and it just all happened organically, and so I'm just blessed.
You're just blessed. Okay, I love the humility, but you told me the story. Don't forget the trip to Europe where you told me how you got your start. And
with a pan and a broom.
Okay, so everybody needs to hear how you actually got your start in theme parks.
Well, I think all by chance, all by blessings. So I came to Florida to go to college and needed a part-time job. And so SeaWorld was literally close to home. And I was like, sure, I'll work there for a part-time job. At the time, fresh out of the soccer league in Jamaica, and I thought perhaps I had a future in soccer, professional soccer. And so this was just a temporary job. Shocked, they handed me a pan and a broom and told me part of my job was to sweep the area that I was assigned. And initially, Kendra, I didn't feel well about a job where I was sweeping.
Yeah.
And my fear was that folks from Jamaica would recognize me sweeping, and all false pride.
Yeah.
And Martin Luther King actually said, and I found this out after, if you're a sweeper, be the best sweeper you can be. And so just the ethics and whatever opportunity you have to embrace it. And I will tell you, the moment I decided, so actually I walked out to the parking lot and I saw all the cars my employers were driving, and I like cars.
Okay.
And I was like, this is a job. This is just a job. It does not define you. And the moment I said, you know what, if I'm going to be a sweeper, I'm going to be the best sweeper possible. And Keandra, I literally, at the end of the night, my responsibility was to sweep my geography, my area, and once I swept it, my closing supervisor, I made it my challenge that my closing supervisor on inspection would not find anything, and he could not. And so I started to build a reputation of being a very intense sweeper that took pride in his work. And maybe 3-4 months after that, they go, hey, you're such a great sweeper, would you like to be a lead? And I was like, sure. And from there, it just lead, assistant supervisor, and just kept going from there. So I say I learned the business from the ground up, and it has truly given me an opportunity to understand things, but more so humility, and so and humility with hard work produces success. So
humility with hard work produces. That is very interesting. You are, speaking of humility, you're probably one of the most humble people that I know, especially in comparison to the level of success that you've achieved. Where, well, and also you are my voice of reason a lot of times because you're so cool, calm, and collected all the time. You know, you're looking at me like you don't know what I'm talking about, like you don't need to send me scriptures and don't need to tell me that God loves me when I'm about to blow something up. Like, where does all of that come from? That even, tempered kind of person. Have you just always been real chill?
I think we're all wired differently, but your environment also shapes you a lot. I'm never shy to say that having the opportunity to grow up around my uncle in Jamaica, affectionately called Uncle Lloyd.
Okay.
He was a calm, chilled dude, and the parental influence that kids see from watching and observing is sometimes more powerful than the spoken words they get. And so I was fortunate to grow up with one of the coolest uncles. He's literally my dad. He grew me from like 9 months to 17 years old before I came to the States.
Got it.
So being around Uncle Lloyd helped a lot for me to see, yeah.
That's what it is. Okay. And your strong faith in God, which I need all the time, where does that come from?
Well, my Uncle Lloyd used to be a party guy, and then he became a Christian.
Oh, okay.
And it was he who first, as a young kid, I remember sitting down with him, and I specifically remember where I was sitting down with him, and I remember I was so young, my comprehension of who Jesus was, I remember looking through the Bible and saw pictures, pictorial representation of Jesus. I was like, is that God? He's like, no. How about this one? Is that God? He's like, no. Those are all Jesus. But I remember sitting down with him when he was first telling me, he said, hey, you don't have to be old. You can accept Jesus as a young kid. And that's where the conversation and the mentorship started.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And I love that you give that away because in the world that we live in, that's what we all need is some Jesus in our life and reminders that he's there. So I appreciate your friendship in that regard. So what I like to do is when I'm talking to my friends, I like to start out by getting to know or letting the world know who you are and then stair step into your career. So outside of all of the things, Tony, and you're very accomplished, who is Tony Moore?
We all, when you are quote unquote a public figure, we have different public personalities. One, based on expectation, people expect you to talk a certain way, look a certain way, act a certain way, as you represent the brands, and so representing big multi-billion-dollar brands in Florida is a little different than representing community-based brands in smaller markets, and so at the end of the day, there is a public persona that you're expected to be, but you are who you are when nobody's around. And that's really the true you.
Yeah.
When you take the mask off and you chill, and I think for me, it's self-serving for me to say this is who I am, and it's best reflected by talking to somebody who knows you better. But I think I don't think a whole lot changed. I'm probably a deeper thinker when I am by myself. Definitely a deeper thinker when I'm more reflective But I like to have fun. I don't like stress and drama, and so I avoid those circumstances. And the older you get, you realize, look, time is so short, and you really need to find out how to capitalize and get the quality of it. And so the older you get in life, greater appreciation for the time you have left.
Yeah, that is
right back at you there.
That is that is very true. Okay, so we're going to talk about what you do. So the attractions and hospitality industry, it continues to evolve in this exciting ways. What inspires you the most about what you do, and what kind of guest experiences do you like to create?
So my initial exposure to attractions in the big Florida market with theme parks, you're putting in multi-million-dollar attractions. Put a case in perspective. The first Harry Potter installation was $500 million.
Harry Potter, where?
Universal
At
Studios.
Universal
No, I wasn't a
Studios.
part of that, but
Okay.
just putting in scope.
Mhm.
You can have a major, earlier in the days, a roller coaster could be like 20 to $30 million for installation that lasts a couple summers to help to drive attendance.
Wow.
Then after it normalizes, you need something new. The attraction business always needs something new.
Okay.
The paid attraction business to attract new visitors.
Okay.
And you typically put it in where it's active for spring, and you have the ability for spring break and summer and the high attendance windows.
Mhm.
In the public park environment, it's completely different.
Okay.
You don't have that type of resource. You don't have a paid revenue source to always invest in heavy capital, if that makes sense.
Sure.
No admissions, and you're providing a product that will help to enhance community and quality of life. And you could argue that the social impact of public parks have far greater reaching than just a paid attraction where you go and you have fun with your family and you leave. They're what we call repeatable experiences, but repeatable around the ability to buy a ticket.
Mhm.
And so you have annual passes that help to manage that. But when you're a park like the Gathering Place or even Harold Simmons Park that you're building, this is a free park because someone paid. And so thankful for the donors at the Gathering Place in Tulsa, the George Kaiser Family Foundation. And George Kaiser is a very generous businessman, came primarily out of oil and gas business, but cared for people. And he invested almost $200 million of his own money to make to make Gathering Place happen in Tulsa.
Wow.
And then private enterprise, private foundations, Quick Trip, Williams Oil, a lot of other private entities gave the other 200, and the city gave about 60. So to develop a park on the public side is driven primarily by private donors, but in most cases what they call public-private, where the city will give in. In Tulsa, the city gave about $60 million for infrastructure, but at the time the city had deferred maintenance, and they didn't want the perception to say we're taking money away from roads and streets and bridges to put into Gathering Place. So their $60 million was about the infrastructure around the park that they just accelerated their timeline. Here in Dallas, Clyde Warren Park has set the standard for what a cool public park is, and we're grateful for that. Had it not been for Clyde Warren, it would have been difficult for some people to comprehend what Harold Simmons Park was about. But that was 5 acres, and so we stand on the shoulders of Clyde Warren with the Harold Simmons Park being 250 acres.
Wow.
From scale. So with that said, private donors, and we're fortunate to have some of the very best in Dallas, led by Dee Dee Rose, Margaret Hoffman, and a whole host of very generous Dallasites who wanted to make this park happen. And it was Annette Simmons, the widow of Harold Simmons, that gave the first $50 million to Mayor Rollins to say, let's make this park happen. And that really was a catalyst that kicked it all off. So to answer your question in a very broad way, yes, the attraction business evolves over time. Technology, how people experience green spaces and the value of nature and the engagement of play. And so in the public parks, it's learning through play with a stronger social mission of live, work, play. In the paid attraction industry, it's more of an escape, a themed experience. Technically more technical than a nature experience. 2 complete different experiences filling similar niches in how we get away and spend time with family, but I think on the public side of things.
Okay. All right. So public parks. Okay, so this is educational to me. I guess I never even really considered the difference between the two. So Harold Simmons Park will be a public park because there is no admission for folks to go into this park, etc. So all the things you just described. But for those folks that don't know what Harold Simmons Park is, can you describe this 250-acre new park, where it is, what kinds of attractions, amenities it will have? Give us all the things about Harold Simmons Park.
Sure. You got time?
We got time.
So obviously, I'm a little biased. I drink my own Kool-Aid, and I need to. Harold Simmons. So in the public parks, again, public parks are parks without admissions that are repeatable experience designed around family, enhancing the quality of life for communities as well as for tourists, but primarily serving the communities in which the park is located, right? And so, um, about 2018, Mayor Rollins at the time received $50 million, a pledge of $50 million from Annette Simmons,
Okay.
and for long, Dallas have long wanted to build a park in the Trinity.
Okay.
There's a lot of history about that,
Yeah.
and highways and failed attempts, and but I will say, with the pledge of the $50 million, the reality of making a park happen became very tangible. And so from that, we needed to find a design and a designer. And so Michael Van Valkenburg and Associates, they are probably the world's premier #1 landscape architectural firm. These are the guys that did Brooklyn Bridge Park in New York. They did Maggie Daley Park, part of the Millennium Park in Chicago. They did Gathering Place in Tulsa. They did Dick's Parks in the Carolinas. And so these guys are truly, they did the Bush landscaping for the Bush Presidential Museum, and they're also doing the landscaping for the Obama Presidential Museum. And when you're doing for both sides in a time like this, you got to be doing something right.
Yeah,
So superstars in the business, they're not cheap.
I'm sure.
You pay for what you get, but they were the architects from the idea was first formed. And so when I got to Dallas, I remember having a conversation about a week or so after I got here with Tim Rogers from D Magazine. And Tim wasn't, I was expecting, hey, welcome to Dallas, why Dallas? Same as it was in Tulsa. But Tim was like, yeah, do you know what you're inheriting here? Do you know it's been 30 years we've been trying to get this park built? And at first I was like, what? But it was probably the best thing that could have happened to me because Tim put into reality the fatigue behind the project, the expectation behind the project, and the frustration behind the park. Being a 30+ year aspiration.
Yeah.
And so clearly communicated to me, you got to get this thing done. And we have an awesome board, as mentioned before, that was like, we are ready to get this thing done.
Right.
So it was one of those audacious projects. I didn't quite know how audacious it was until I got here. But with that said, we're building a 250-acre park. The geography that Mayor Rollins wanted it located is sandwiched between the two Santiago Calatrava bridges, the two white bridges. And as you know, those are the iconic landmarks for the city of Dallas. When the Cowboys or the Mavs play, that's the B-roll visual that represents Dallas. And so Mayor Rollins wanted this park to have an iconic location. At the time, I think there was a lot of expectation the park itself would sit exclusively in the floodway. But as you know, the floodway floods.
Right, absolutely.
And with that comes debris and sand and all that. So the park now is in the floodway, but it's the nature side of it. The green, we call it the nature preserves. But outside the floodway, where there's these massive 30-foot levees, is where what we call the dry side of the levee, where the brick and mortar sides of the park will build. So there'll be 4 major hubs, we call them overlooks. 2 on the east side, 2 on the west side, with the levee being the center of the park. But Keandra, I have to say that the levees were put in the early 1920s to prevent the city of Dallas from flooding. And so the Army Corps of Engineers relocated the Trinity River between the levees because there was a 1908 flood. And the 30-foot barriers that contained the floodwater also created this geographical divide between East Dallas and West Dallas. And so we know the economic differences. You go into West Dallas, you're living it, you're trying to change this with all that you're doing with the Oak Cliff Chamber, and we're thankful for that. But the disparity between life expectancy, household income is just crazy. And by no means are we thinking that a park is going to bridge that. But we do want to bridge the geography and provide a place of coming together, a place of, I don't want to say a place of gathering, but a place of gathering where people of all cultures, zip codes, east and west can come together in a centralized area. And so our tagline is where nature unites Dallas. But to answer your question, what will be in the Harold Simmons Park from an attractions point of view? The first part we'll build will be on the west side of Dallas, between Beckley and Commerce, and we're calling that the West Overlook. And that will be roughly 22 acres. It will involve skate park, bike park, playground, just shy of an acre playground, an event lawn that will house about 3,000 folks, so concerts and festivals. This will be one of the premier places to have those activities. In addition, we'll have an event building, we'll have dining, we will have splash pads to cool down in the summer months. I can't call it a ride, it's not a ride, but we will have a play feature called a cable ferry. It's a barge that kids can get on and pull themselves along a body of water.
Oh, cool.
So it'll be three-story towers that kids could play in. Each tower have unique play features. Picnic grove that you can come in and have a picnic under a shelter area. And talking about shelter, if you're familiar with that shed that runs the distance of the park, it was a contracted iron and steel shed. We're keeping that shed and converting it into a marketplace where we can have flea markets, so your vendors can come down and have a vendor, Taste of Oak Cliff. We can host that type of activities if you so wish. So there's a lot of amenities, but what that does, and you can understand from the tiering of activities, dog park as well, nature gardens, aquatic gardens with filter gardens with aquatic plants. So there's a lot to see, and that in essence make that a repeatable experience. You can't see it all in one day. And play is universal, so you can continue to play and have different experiences with kids and families. This is the perfect place for stroller mom or stroller dad, or someone who just wants to stroll in nature, or someone that just wants to get away. And so this is more than just an average passive park experience. This is one of, and I hate to use the word world-class park, but it really is based on, and thus why it's, the entire project is $325 million and probably going up with inflation and tariffs and other unknown expenses. But it's a unique opportunity for Dallas-sides, for Oak Cliff, for West Dallas, for the entire metro to have a world-class park to visit.
So that's a lot. So will this thing, I shouldn't call it a thing, these experiences open in phases? And if so, what are the phases? What can we expect with each phase?
Yes, it will. And for 250 acres, 200 of that's the floodway, but the 50 acres that's being built, I wish I had all the money. If any of your listeners are well endowed and have some funds burning in their pockets, I would absolutely love to provide them with an opportunity to have a lasting impression in Dallas. And so we're fundraising. We're now approximately $171 million towards the $325 million project. And we're opening within approximately 3 years, the first phase. And we're actually able, the 22 acres is the first build, but we're trying our very best to open something earlier than the entire 22 acres. So if I can, I'll open half a little early while we finish the rest. And then we'll continue with the rest of the phases, which involve the Felix Lozada Gateway, the Ron Kerr Bridge, the Continental Gateway, and then what we're calling the East Overlook, which is right across from the Reunion Tower. There's 20 acres there just south of the justice system. Okay. So you mentioned earlier the Clyde Warren Park, which is a huge asset for the downtown Dallas area and beyond. We've all enjoyed it here in Oak Cliff. And then we've got, of course, the Halperin Park, if I can say that. That's coming as well. My sister April.
Yes, which we are super excited about. How will Harold Simmons be different?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, as mentioned, the Clyde Warren Park, the Halperin Park, Harold Simmons Park, Clyde Warren's also going through an expansion. This is an exciting time for parks in
Yeah.
Dallas. And I know you've heard, including the mayor, that green spaces enhances the quality of life. And so I think Dallas, we're at a point of growth in Dallas, right? One of the fastest growing metros in the country.
Yeah.
And so the more green spaces we have, and we need to be responsible in ensuring we have green spaces. And so recreational green spaces, if COVID have taught us anything, is we don't want to be locked in a concrete walls our life. We want to get out in nature. So how will it be different? Scale. We have 250 acres, 50 of which will be the built environment. Just by geography, Clyde Warren being in the middle of the urban core, they're 5 acres. Halpern Park is 5 acres. Our built environment will be 50 acres. And so scale alone and the ability to have more attractions by scale, and as well as I think Halpern Park is in the community, and like Halpern Park, we're also in the community with West Dallas and Oak Cliff.
Yeah, yeah. And, no disrespect to West Dallas or any other community, but, Oak Cliff is simply the best. Simply the best, so.
Well said by you.
Okay, so you've done, and you've worked on so many different projects, Tony, in your exciting career. What key thing or what key leadership philosophy do you take into each new project that you work on?
Never assume success of the past project will travel with you to the next project.
That sounds like it belongs in a fortune cookie. Did you get that out of a fortune cookie?
No, but I think you should put it in a book or something.
Yeah, I've told you this before. I need your Tonyisms. Can you say that one more time? Do you remember it?
Well, I just basically never assume that the success you had in the past project will automatically follow you to the next. Every situation is different.
Yeah.
Every market is different.
Yeah.
The Dallas pride is a whole different level of pride from the Tulsa soulful connection. And you have to understand each for its own. And then don't get complacent, Keandra. You got to go in there with eyes wide open, and you have to have a real fear of failure.
Yeah.
If you don't have a real fear of failure, then you risk being complacent. And, these projects, when you do it, they're heavily invested. That's a lot of private-public funds, and we're working with the city to have the private funds, and we desperately need some city assistance to make it happen. But with that said, yeah, every market's different, every project is different, stakeholders are different. They want to deliver, and they want you to be unique and very centric for their community and for their cities. And you humble yourself, work hard, and with a lot of grace.
Yeah, yeah. I know I probably shouldn't ask you this, which, that's why I'm going to ask you, because that's what I do. Of all the things you've done, what's your favorite project?
Wow. My favorite project is the project I do for the favorite city at the time.
That's a great answer. It's so you, but it's a great answer.
No, each of them are uniquely different, and I've really been blessed to have some cool gigs. And at the time for each, I'm like, this is cool, Discovery Cove. At SeaWorld, I was able to be the director of operations at a time when the product was new. It was a cutting edge. It's what we call a resort park. It's like, it's a dolphin swim park, but it looks like a tropical paradise. It was cutting. There was a park in Mexico that had a similar product, Xcaret. But that was cool. Then working with the zoo, we were the first to do a lantern festival that's ever been done in North America.
Oh, wow.
And that was cool and cutting edge. And then Gathering Place was the largest private donation to a public park in the history of the U.S.
How much was it?
$465 million, just shy of $500 million.
Gosh.
And that was awesome. And now Harold Simmons Park has been listed by my board chair as the most transformative project for Dallas in recent times.
Wow.
Scale.
Yeah.
And so what an awesome opportunity. So, each of them in their own unique way. And I know that sounds like a diplomatic, political answer, but really very cool projects in their own unique way.
So amazing. Okay, so in order to pull these things off, you have to have a phenomenal team. We know that it is due to your leadership that these things are happening, but you have to have phenomenal people that work alongside you. How do you create? What kind of ingredients for team members what's the recipe for a team success? How do you do it?
Yeah, so I'm really the cheerleader, to be quite honest, behind the team that gets it done. And so I tell them I'm the chief cheerleader sometimes when I ask about my title. I will say that you have to select right.
Mm.
You can convert average talent into high performance talent, but it comes with time and burden and the willingness of that talent to grow. But it's easier to start with a high performance team and get them aligned to mission than it is to develop the team, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot
And
of
so
sense.
when I was in the ZooTampa, I was able to recruit from some colleagues in the industry, a lot from SeaWorld. And we had an awesome team. When I came to the gathering place in Tulsa, 6 families came from Florida up to Tulsa.
Wow.
Some of which are still there.
Oh, wow.
With me. And so recruiting the right folks, people who get you and understand your crazy approach, people, when you say quality, that understand what quality means. And so
Right.
alignment with leadership is important, understanding is important, and people were motivated. Gathering place could not fail. It was so important civically for the city that this park was a beacon. I think Mr. Kaiser said, we don't have a Statue of Liberty, and I want to make Tulsa a vibrant place, and I need something iconic that will help to recruit and to make Tulsa more vibrant. And so that was the park. Failure was not an option.
Got it.
Here in Dallas, after waiting 30 plus years to get this project going, failure is not an option.
Yeah.
And so you have to recruit right, you have to recruit for alignment, and you have to recruit with compatibility. But you also have to recruit not for yes people. You need to provide the environment that someone can say, hey man, that ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
Respectfully.
Respectfully, yes.
But you have to recruit objective leaders that are the best at what they do, and it comes at a price. You know, you have to pay to get great talent.
Yeah.
And so, you're as good as your team. The team represents, and in fact, the team is what carries you through, and you can't be everywhere every time or know everything. Sometimes there's a little struggle with how much you let go and when you let go.
Yeah.
But you let go when they're competent and they're able to run. And so, getting the right team with the right energy. And for me, energy is important.
Yes, it is.
I can't work in an environment that the team isn't cohesive, engaging. We're in the fun business. If you're not having fun, this is not the industry or the business for you, or the social culture for you. And so I am big on a work culture that's having fun. I'm big on a work culture that's engaging, that's interactive. One of the first things I did when I came to Dallas is everyone was working from home. And I was like, we need you together. We need to eyeball to eyeball. We need to interact. And, it didn't come across very well. I remember going out, checking my car before I drive off, making sure nothing was ticking underneath, if you know what I mean.
I don't know if they still tick, though,
Maybe not.
You're
right. Cell phone, so I was probably checking the wrong thing, right?
Yeah. So you work on multi-million-dollar, multi-year projects, obviously. But when we're talking about teams, how do you, I know that you want to have this motivated team, they're coming in, they're gung-ho, they're ready to go. But over the span of 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years, how do you keep them inspired?
So fortunate for me, we've been working cool projects, right? And the project has a lot to do with it. And building a project is one thing. It's a whole different dynamics and designing and funding and building. But when you get to open the project, it's a different sense of excitement. And then you spend probably the first 3 years figuring out how to operate it. Because you build in theory and you operate in practical, and there's 2 different components. And if you don't build and design well, you can't operate well. And so it evolves. The area of transition is after you've operated for quite a while. What happens next? Because some of the folks who have been the energy of designing, building, and opening and operating is different than when that normalizes and you just operate in a general way and it becomes routine. And that's when sometimes different guys are like, all right, ready for the next one.
Yeah.
You know, so the project motivates, the mission motivates, and certainly on the public side, it's more about mission. But you have to find a way to constantly, if your heart's not in it, you grow old, you grow weary, and some wander off the next big thing.
Yeah, yeah. So, do you remember the first time you had to let someone go?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a expense management or not properly aligned leadership is one of those things. Yeah, I've had I don't know if I remember the first one, because we did, at a frontline level, when you release people, and if it's their only job and their only way of providing it, it's always hard when you let somebody go.
Yeah.
So yes, I do have several vivid examples of, not examples, but historical memories of releasing people.
Yeah. Because when I'm thinking about team building and all the things, sometimes sometimes we get it right and sometimes we don't get it right. And it's always very difficult
But I'll tell you, Keandra, sometimes it's more difficult to carry someone who's not properly aligned and manage around that and the disruption, and it's not fair for them if they're not properly aligned with the job, or if it's for competence, that's one thing.
Right.
That's easier to explain.
Right.
If it's for attitude, and attitude is everything.
It is.
Because sometimes that's disruptive, and you may be a superstar with a terrible attitude.
Yeah.
And the prima donnas, I'd rather have the greatest attitude and somebody willing than somebody who's the very best with a terrible attitude, because it undermines, it destroys. And I said to a team once, I said, everything you say or do either builds or destroys. So be careful. Publicly or privately.
That's right.
Everything you say or do in a work environment either builds or destroys. So there's some responsibility there. But sometimes you have to bite that bitter tablet, and separation sometimes could be the best thing. And sometimes they'll thank you for it later. Dude, I was just burned out, man. Thanks. Now, man, I'm thriving now, And at the time, though, it's always painful because people never lose sight of people.
Yeah. You have so much wisdom. Like, I just want to walk behind you and just jot down your Tonyisms.
Well, it comes by learning, and sometimes painfully gained.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I love that. Okay, so another question for you, and then I'm gonna stop asking you questions here. But you just intrigue me. I think you know that. That's why I ask you so much. Okay, so Tony, all the things that you do. How do you decompress? What do you do?
Family. Sports, and I need to do more of both. I'm a nature guy, so ultimately I was born in Jamaica, grew up in Florida, so I love the beaches. I love just to sit and watch waves crash, palm trees blow in the sand. I like nature. I really do. I don't do it as much, but I like being in a mountainous environment and just look at leaves flutter in the wind and trees sway in the wind. And so I don't get enough. I don't do it enough. And if there's a guilt, is not finding and not balancing it. I don't know how you do it, because I know you're terribly busy as well. And if I said burn it, but don't burn it down, and sometimes I'm burning it down, and so that's a room for improvement that I need to figure it out. So I appreciate you asking that. And challenging me at the same time.
I am. All high performers, I think, need to be challenged to try to have some kind of balance. I don't even know that it's possible, but I think we need to try, you know.
And the most important thing, which I failed to mention, is faith. You know, I gotta, and so I gotta have that. Going to church for me allows me to unplug.
Yeah.
And not plug back in, because I should always be plugged in, but it allows me as well just to put things in perspective.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, a job is a job, and it shouldn't define us to that.
Yeah.
And we unfortunately spend most of our time with our jobs, and we do it with family and friends, and or with ourselves. I can tell you, going back and looking at all the projects I've worked, they have all been extremely consuming. And so you have to get to that point where you deliver the project lives in perpetuity.
Yeah.
But what about you?
What about you? Yeah.
So I don't have the answer for all that, but
you know, listen, maybe another time we need to sit down and talk about that, because with everyone that I have had in this room, that's always the problem. There's no balance there. It's like you give, and sometimes we forget about us. I mean, we're working early mornings to late nights, and you know. Anyway, maybe that's a separate conversation. Separate conversation. But anyway.
But for anyone listening, it's a real battle, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And I guess being at least cognizant that you're knowledgeable if it is the first step in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we leave, I'd like to give those who know me pretty well an opportunity to ask me one question before we leave. It could be anything. I do have the ability, though, to stop the camera. So ask away one question. What is one thing?
What do you think is the Keandra difference that make you such an engaging, high profile? What drives you? You know, you're doing a great work in terms of representing an area for a city and seeking economic growth, seeking visibility and exposure for your organizations, your brands, your members. But what is if you were to identify one single factor that moves you as a person, not just by the mission that you need to and the work that you do, but what's your main motivation in getting up every morning that drives you? What's the Keandra difference?
I appreciate that question, Tony. I believe in my heart of hearts that God has me here. And when I just don't want to, and there are many mornings that I don't, I believe that this is my assignment for a time. I don't know how long that period of time is, but I believe that I'm doing what he wants me to do. Not always the right way, because I lean into me more than I should. Y'all know that.
We all do.
You know, I lean into Keandra, but I believe that this is my assignment for a period of time, and so that's what keeps me going. Even on days I just don't want to, and I really want to just not. That's the reason. Yeah, that's the reason. Thank you for that question.
I appreciate that answer.
Thank you. And I appreciate you coming to hang out with me a little bit. I know you're super, super busy.
True honor. Thank you so much. I know you have so many folks to choose from. The fact that I get a chance to be on your podcast, pretty darn cool. So thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to working with you on some future projects and, hearing more Tonyisms. So looking forward to our future together.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, you have heard from the Mr. Tony Moore. He is all things themed parks, both private and public. And so thank you for listening. We'll see you next time right here on Strictly Business Unscripted. I'm your host, Keandra Jones. And again, thank you for watching another episode of Strictly Business Unscripted. We'll see you next time.